All right, welcome back. Our next clinician's Ed McNamara from Aurora, Oregon, and he is the founder of the N-Scale CMRR Free-moN and modeling Portland and Western Railroad between Tigard and Eugene. The CMRR is a booth. Uh, sorry, the CMRR is both a double-deck home layout and a traveling Free-moN modular layout for train shows. Please welcome Ed McNamara and take it away.
Well, thanks for having me on tonight. I'm going to play a video presentation as part slide and part video. So I'll be talking over the first part and we'll see how the video part goes. So I'm going to share the screen. And application. Okay. So CMRR Free-moN, we're modeling the Portland and Western Railroad in Free-moN. And we have a Facebook group. We have over 1,800 members from around the world have joined our group. Again, the Portland and Western Railroad. And this is their logo. They're owned by the Genesee and Wyoming. And this is a route map of the entire Portland and Western. So we are modeling basically from below the Willamette River down to Junction City is what's going to be visible. Our staging yard would be Portland and Eugene. We'll be running point to point. And the line that we are is the former Oregon Electric. So we're modeling from Wilsonville to Albany, and then Albany to Eugene. And Oregon Electric was founded in 1908, and then the Spokane, Portland, and Seattle Railroad took it over in 1910. And then they extended service down to Eugene in 1912. So this is the route map of the Oregon Electric. It had a few spurs, but the main route was down through the Willamette Valley here in south of Portland. Regular passenger service on the Willamette Valley ended in May of 1933. And here's a couple of pictures of what their cars looked like. And then the freight operations continued into the 1990s, and it became ultimately a Burlington Northern feeder operation. The electric part of the railroad ended in 1945, a year before I was born. So I never got to see the electric operation. So the Burlington Northern took it over, and then in 1995, the BN became BNSF. And Portland Western took over the Oregon Electric line from BNSF in 1996. So our layout plans, the lower level is 24 inches wide to 12 inches. And this is a view of that. Dropped my mouse on the floor there. So we have this layout is in the basement of a modular home, which is actually 2 modular homes. And if you were calling it, it would be a quad wide. So we have a staging room, we have area 1, 2, and 3, and then the elevator room. So the main basement is 24 by 42, and the elevator room basement is 10 by 27. So that's a lower level. The upper level is between 18 inches to 12 inches deep. And it basically is above the lower point. We operate point to point. And we'll start our layout tour with the staging room. The upper level staging is Portland, Oregon, and the lower level is Eugene, Oregon. And this is a track plan for the staging. It's 9 tracks across. It's approximately 12 feet long. And trains will come in from the bottom here on the first 2 tracks, and then there's an escape area where the engines can run around the train again. So the question is, can you hear audio from the video at this point? The video is starting. No, okay. So we started in April of 2015. And so we're going into the staging room. We run point to point. So this staging area is under construction. We're using these storage racks, which are 3 feet wide by about 18 inches deep. So we'll be about 9 tracks across. We'll be using Atlas Code 80 N scale track. There's a track plan that we had talked about before. So the first and 2 tracks to the arrival and departure, and the locomotives can escape. We'll be using Pico turnouts for this layout. So the lower level is Eugene, Oregon, and the upper level is Portland, Oregon. So the trains will enter and exit through these holes in the wall into the main train room. So this is the beginning and the end of the railroad, point to point. About 400 feet. So the upper level in Area 1, the trains will leave and go through these kitchen cabinets into Area 1. So the upper level is going through these cabinets. And the lower level will go along the backsplash on the counter. There'll be bridges over the sinks. There's 2 sinks. So this area will be code 80, but the rest of the layout on the Free-moN modules are code 55 Atlas. This is a transition piece that goes from 11 inches to 18 inches. We use photographic scenery because this module was recently just got its track on it. but eventually it'll be sculpted and scenic. This is a 12-foot module consisting of 3 4-foot modules. This is the Butteville siding. The railroad calls it Curtis, so we'll be renaming it. So we take this module to train shows, and we use this as a passing siding. In the prototype, this is often used for storage of grain cars for the Foster Farms feed mill, which is further down the track. We have number 10 turnout. There's a couple of Intermountain SD40-2s with sound, ESU decoders. There's a farm along the right of way, and there's an old dirt road there for the tractors to access. This module is grass seed that's being grown. In the Willamette Valley, seeds is a very important agricultural crop. Down at this end, we have another number 10 turnout. And these are Atlas turnouts. Here we have an SD9 Portland and Western, number 1854. And then a Willamette Pacific, which was also prior to the Portland and Western. And this is 2308. It's a GP 39-2. These are both Atlas engines. The one on the right is factory paint. The one on the left is an ex Santa Fe, and has been custom painted by Jeff Davis in Longview, Washington. And he's painting all of the 39-2s in the orange and black scheme. There's 4 of those ex Santa Fe's still running. So that's a beautiful siding, 12-foot long module, 3 4-foot sections. This is a 2-foot section called Arndt Road Northeast. These will have functioning crossing gates, but right now they have stop signs on the crosswalks. This road is right adjacent to the end of the Butteville siding. Then we have 2 45-degree modules. And we have Bent's Road Northeast crossing. This is a 2-foot module, 2-foot long, 18 inches wide. And this will have functioning crossing signals. We'll be using NJ International. The road is painted with Woodland Scenics black asphalt. And then we use some ARM N-scale ballast rubbed in to give it the weathered look. We're also using ARM ballast along the tracks. We haven't ballasted the tracks yet, just the sides. We have two more 45-degree modules. Then we have a 4-foot module. This is Fargo Road Northeast. The prototype, it only has stop signs at the crossing. There's a service road that runs along the road. There'll be an electrical substation and a natural gas pumping station. The next set of modules is a 12-foot by 18-inch wide Foster Farms feed mill. And this exists between Aurora and Donald. And this is the actual feed mill prototype. This photo was taken by Jeff Schultz and his dad a few years ago. His dad is a pilot, and Jeff Schultz is also modeling the Portland and Western in HO. So as you can see, there's quite of a complex. There's a lot of piping, grain elevators. So the track plan is copied from the prototype. We're using number 7 turnouts. So from the south, it splits into 2 sidings, and then at the silos will be an unloading shed over the tracks. And then further down, it splits. There's a crossover, and then there's a 3rd siding to the right, which is a stub siding. The tracks continue down and hook up to the main line. Now, the prototype uses a track mobile for switching all the grain cars. And these tracks are usually filled with grain storage, but we've added some more industries, got some Caterpillar excavators, some pipe storage, and a few intermodal containers. So as you can see, we're going to try to make it look like the prototype, but there's quite a bit of work to be done on that. This is the Foster Farms feed mill. And there's an access road to the feed mill. And then this module is 66 inches long. And it has photographic scenery right now. There'll be a large warehouse building where that footprint is. And then there'll be agriculture on both sides of the track. There's a hazelnut orchard on the other side of the railroad on the left side. And this is a busy highway, and it will have crossing gates and signals. And the layout turns. So the modules that don't have foam on them yet is temporary track on some 2x, Atlas Code 80 left over from previous layout, and on top of 1/2-inch ceiling tiles. The track is just spiked into the ceiling tile. This is what we call Area 1. All of these modules except Ellen Road and the small transition module have been traveling to train shows. And they were at the NMRA convention in Salt Lake City last year. Now we go into Area 2. And this is wide at the beginning and then narrows to 3 feet wide at the end. So we come around on the upper level. And then this is going to be the town of Donald. And this is the actual scale layout of Donald. So there'll be a feed and grain facility here, a warehouse with a loading dock, some other businesses on the right-hand side of the street. And on the left-hand side is an old freight house. And the small X building behind it was part of the Oregon Electric and was either a station or a power substation. And it's all boarded up now, but it still exists. So we have Donald Road Northeast crossing, and the siding continues to the back to the main line. So the track goes down and around. There'll be a few road crossings, but no real industry on these tracks. So you get a lot of running, and it goes around the wall and goes into Area 3. The Donald set will be 2 4-foot modules, 18 inches deep, and they will also be traveling. Now we have Area 3. Again, some nice long runs. This is a construction zone, so it's kind of messy. And this is temporary track. We do have an AccuTrack 2 speedometer, and we use that for speed matching. So the tracks will, we have a dispatcher office here, and we use a proto throttle. The control system that we use is NCE. We use JMRI, and we have a Raspberry Pi 3 and a monitor. So we can run JMRI either on the laptop or on the Raspberry Pi. And we do have radio throttles on NCE. And we use our phones for throttles too. So the layout will continue, and it will poke through the wall to get to the other basement. Now, the train will come out through this wall from Area 3. So this hole will be widened out, upper and lower, and we'll be making a 90-degree turn. We might be making it into a Y here. And that way we can have visiting modules attached to the layout in this area. So now we go into the elevator room. And here we have 5 4-foot by 18-inch modules, both on the upper and the lower. So this would be a 20-foot modules, and we'll show you the track plan later. These modules have not received their foam yet. Now, down at the end will be an elevator instead of a helix to go from one level to the other. And we'll demonstrate that shortly after I get it set up. This is based on an uplift disc, and they'll connect from one to the other. I'll show you the track plan. Be a double loop, and you'll be able to put a 20-foot train on these loops. There's 3 turnouts on the right-hand side. So this will also give us operational, the Portland Western has a rock train about halfway down the valley, and the rock train will start and end at this point. Now here's the elevator. So we set up a module so we can demonstrate how the elevator works to give you an idea. Put a little bit of foam on the modules. We just got some loose track. The elevator again is from Uplift Desk. This is a four-legged. It has 3 sections on each leg, and inside the legs is an electrical motor and probably some hydraulics. It has a capacity of 535 pounds. There's a controller that controls all 4 legs. And it's all steel construction. We got a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood over the frame. That's 30 by 80. The elevator will be 4 foot wide by about 104 long. So it has 4 memories. We're using the 1 and 2 for the upper and lower. It has a 1/10 of an inch increment for the memories. So right now, I'm going to press 1, and the elevator will go down to the lower level. And the operation is very quiet. There'll be a linear guide rail on the wall that will make this really smooth and really tight clearance, tighter than what you see. So trains will be able to go over the gap, no problem, just like we do at a Free-moN setup. Pressing 2 to have it go up. Now it goes up to the upper level. Now you'll probably be able to, with a short train, to enter onto the elevator and drive around the entire elevator. And while it's going down or up, you'll be able to drive right onto the lower level without stopping. And the train continues on the lower level, headed towards the main train room. So the lower level, the train comes out, goes through the wall, and goes into the main train room. It will come out of the wall next to the dispatcher desk and go along where the shelves are. Be the same width as above, 12 inches wide. And then it will expand out to 24 inches wide. This is a 6-foot module. And one of the features that we're going to incorporate, back in the 80s and 90s, we had a layout in an apartment, 250-foot double main line, and we used a shelf storage system. The main line was 250-foot double main, 9 cabs, fully dispatcher with block detectors, and we used radios. It was a fictitious railroad from Oakland to Stockton. So we used these shelves, 1x4 shelves with plexiglass on the sides. So we're going to use those same brackets, and we'll use some 1x4s for the shelves for 4-foot shelves. Be double track. You'll be able to take a shelf off the wall. I guess they call them cassettes now, and then you'll be able to put it on this module. So this will become an interchange point. So we can add trains on and off the layout. Now the Portland Western does interchange in Salem. So this would represent Salem. They interchange with the Union Pacific. So now we continue from Area 3 into Area 2. Also in this corner, we have storage for cars and locomotives. These 4 cabinets are Alex from IKEA. And we use jewelry display cases for these trays. We have them lined with suede. So they work pretty good. We can do 2 high on the short shelves, and we can do 3 high on the higher shelves. They glide really nicely and are fairly easy to put together. Then we also have an HP T120 24-inch wide roll printer. And we use this for printing our track plans full size and use them as a template. So the layout continues at 24-inch wide, and it will narrow down to 12 inches. Now this module is a goof module, but we made it into a travel module. So we want to show you how our legs are used. We use 3/4 inch electrical conduit. We have 3D printed leg pockets with a set screw to hold the leg into place. And at the end, we have an insert 3D printed that goes into the 3/4 inch pattern. We have a carriage bolt, and we have adjustable feet. We usually have a 1-inch gap there, and with that, the legs will set up to make the modules at the 50-inch NMRA, the Free-moN height. This is a 3D leg pocket. These are printed by Tony Ryan, a member of our group and a founder of the Pacific Northwest Free-moN. So we have built to have a thumb screw on either side. We use a 1024 by 1/2 inch thumb screw. This is what the insert looks like. Goes on the bottom of the leg. We use a 4-inch carriage bolt. Screws into the insert. It has a hard printed top, which fits around the inside of the carriage bolt, and then a softer material foot that snaps on there. So it's a slick system that Tony invented. There's enough play on the bottom of the legs for irregularity of the floor. We've been using this for about 3 years now. It works good. So in this area will be the North Albany yard. The 2-foot wide modules. This is a fairly large yard. It does have a turntable that Maintenance Away is primarily using. It's an 80-foot turntable. So trains will go out of Area 2 into Area 1. And this is our photo booth for using to do selling on eBay for surplus materials. So Area 2, on the lower level, modules go from 2 foot down to 1 foot back to 2 foot and make this turn into area 1. So now we're back into area 1 in the lower level. And this is 2 foot wide all the way around. Here we have 4 6-foot modules. And this will be the main Albany yard, which is shared by the Portland and Western and Union Pacific. And there'll be some curved modules at the end and more 2-foot modules on this side. This will be Junction City, and down in Junction City, there's a lot of shipping of lumber materials on center beams. So we'll be modeling a large center beam facility. The layout will continue on the backsplash and head on into staging. So again, overall, it'll be just over 400 feet from one point to the next, to the other point. So once again, trains come around the bottom, 2 foot wide all the way around from Albany to Junction City. And then continuing on to Eugene in the staging. We have a demonstration of our shelf system. So these are the shelf supports. We have 12-inch, 18-inch, and 24-inch. And we're using Rubbermaid 11-inch bracket, 18-inch bracket, a closet-made 20-inch bracket, and the uprights are also by closet-made. And so we've bolted on some plywood to make the shelves work with our modules. And we made them so that they're adjustable in height and tilt. So if there's any variation of the wall, we can easily adjust the shelves. So we hope you enjoyed this. So we hope you enjoyed this layout. And let's see, I'll share something else. Go ahead, Brooks.
Oh, sorry. If you have more to share, I had a couple questions to ask. So
sure.
Go ahead and share what you have.
Let me stop sharing the screen. Oh, okay. All right. So are you? Let's see. Could not stop. Okay. All right. Can you see me now, or?
I see you.
Okay. All right. So what was your question?
Okay. Here's some Facebook questions. So Neil Erickson asks, are you using Unistrut?
No. The shelf system is from ClosetMaid. It's a double track system.
Okay. Tom Gazier asks, what's the best joiner you found to connect the rails between the modules?
We don't use any joiners. They're just butt joints. So we're using gap masters. So the rails are soldered to the gap masters.
And those are
American timber.
Those are just PC board ties, right?
Right. Some of the members use just PC ties. Some people construct with a piece of masonite and then put the PC ties on that, maybe for an inch and 2 inches. I run the cork road bed to the end of the end plate, glue on the gap master. Have to shave it down a little bit or sand it down a little bit to match the height of the ties on the Atlas Code 55 track. And then basically you have 4 ties worth of rail that's soldered to the gap master.
Cool. How are those gap masters glued down, or how are they attached to the module?
I'm using just Titebond wood glue.
Okay.
And
So
they stand up pretty good. I have one module pop loose. The gap master didn't pop loose, and I was actually able to bend the rail a little bit, so it's still usable. We used it at the National Train Show last year, and I haven't repaired it since. So.
Awesome. I got a few questions about the elevator desk. One of them by Rob Stafford was who makes the elevator desk?
Uplift Desk.
Okay.
Is the manufacturer.
And
that frame only cost about $947. They were having a $100 off sale, and we got about another $100 off.
And can you order those directly from the website, or do you have to go through another source for those?
I ordered directly from the company on their website.
Cool. And you can order those without the desktops, so they're just the legs.
So there's the frame only. They have 2 types. One with 4-legged, which is what I got, and they also have a 2-legged desk. If you follow the AML Models Life group, Adam Penalis, who's a member of them, he has a 2-legged uplift desk, which he uses as his work desk. And it goes low enough. It goes down to like 22 inches. I didn't show that in the video. And it goes up to about 4 feet high.
Cool.
But he's able to, he's on rollers so that he can put it underneath his layout to get it out of the way, or he can pull it out and work on it sitting down, or he can use it as a stand-up desk.
Does your desk, is it have presets that you can set for the different heights for the levels?
Yeah, you have 4 memories available, and you can do them in 1/10 increments.
Is it pretty the tolerance on it when you set those memories, does it return spot on when you recall those?
Yeah, it's pretty close. I did buy a linear guardrail that I'm going to be installing, so I have to design that and put that in. I want to get it so that it's super precise going up and down. Right now, there's a little bit of back and forth, and if it comes to the point where the rails are off just a little bit vertically, we'll just clamp it like we do at a train show. Just easy to throw a clamp on there.
Cool. So
like when we do a Free-moN setup at a train show, we're just clamping with one clamp the modules together.
Okay.
You line it up with your finger, and if it feels good on your finger, running back and forth across the joint, and then we use a test car to, just grab a car and run it across, and it's amazing how much an end scale wheel will jump as far as the gap goes. If the rails don't have to be touching, that can be a slight gap, maybe as much as a 1/16 of an inch.
What size of what code of track are you using in there? Code 55?
Code 55 is the Free-moN standard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using code 80 in the staging yard because I got a lot of track left over from my old layout, and I'll use code 80 along through the kitchen cabinet, since that's not really a scenic thing. That's more of a giving us more running room, and we don't really need it in the staging.
Yeah. That'll get you a little more higher rail there, for alignment purposes too, with the code 80 as well.
Right.
Yeah. On the legs, you know, the 3D printed legs, I've actually looked at those myself. Um, do you find that you need cross braces on the legs at all?
No. We do sometimes we'll clamp on a diagonal brace, but typically when you get them all together, it's really solid. The layout is really pretty stiff.
Cool.
And we don't use, when we set up, we don't use any ropes to keep the people away. We do have to remind some people not to lean up against the layout, put your elbow on it, but the kids complain that it's too high, but that's up to the parents to lift them up. When I'm operating a train at a show, I will operate on the outside public side of the layout and interact with the people, and I'll be using my phone as a throttle, and people will be amazed, you're using your phone to control that train. So it's really fun operating at the train shows.
Cool.
So all of these modules will be able to go to a train show. I can't fit all of them in a van. I might wind up getting a big truck or something. And also on the modules on the elevator, there's 2 curved sections on the end, and then 24 by 55 in the center. And then there'll be this small section where the connection is. And those will be modules that can also travel to a train show, and that will become a reversing loop.
Cool. On the construction of the modules, somebody asked if you're doing dimensional lumber, not plywood. Do you have any warping issues, and what do you do to prevent that?
Well, all the modules are built out of 3/4 inch birch plywood.
Okay.
And it's like 5 or 7 ply, although the outer plies are like paper thin. The 2x that you see is only for temporary track, so that I can run a train from my desk area all the way through the main room to right now to the kitchen cabinet beginning. So on the last 2 birthdays, I've run, let's see, last year was a 73 car train because I was 73. So I had 73 cars and 6 locomotives, 2 up front, 2 mid train, and 2 in the rear. So this coming September, I'll be running a 74 car train.
Cool. Wow. Nice. Do you do anything to stabilize the modules anyway? Once you get them all hooked together, do they stay pretty stable themselves?
It stays pretty stable.
Okay.
So we're using just a one, typically 1, sometimes 2 Harbor Freight 11-inch welders clamps, and the clamp usually goes at the center of the module. Here, set up on the shelves, I use 3/8 bolts. There's 2 bolts, so they're bolted together. And the modules have holes in them so that the wires can be tucked up from where they connect from one to the other. I use the Anderson power poles for the connections between modules.
Okay.
And then we have the LocoNet cable, which is the 6-wire phone cable with connectors. So again, it's a Free-moN standard, and so anybody's modules can hook up with each other's.
Cool. How long does it usually take for y'all to set up and get trains running for a meet?
Typically, it will take, depending on the size, like Salt Lake City, we had 8,000 or 80,000 square feet. 8,000. It was 80 by 100 was the layout, and it took 2 hours to run from one end to the other. We had trains running probably 3 to 4 hours from setup, and we're usually takedown is we're out of there in an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty slick. Somebody will design the layout ahead of time. Like we had 10 different groups in at Salt Lake. So the other thing that I was going to show was on CAD Rail how I use a prototype. We basically take a picture from Google Earth, scale it down, put it in CAD Rail, and design the track layout off of what's the prototype. And then do some whatever compression we need or moving turnouts to make it all work.
Cool. All right, last question. If somebody wants to join your group, would they need to build a module, and you know what's the process of joining a Free-moN group like that?
Well, we're kind of unusual in that we're kind of a virtual group, the CMRR Free-moN. It's basically me and my wife and my grandson, and we have some other members here locally that have shown interest. I've started building modules, but you can join us on Facebook. Just do a search for CMRR Free-moN. And like I said, we got over 1,800 members from all across the world that are following us and posting, and we welcome all scales. And we do a lot of prototype. We do all kinds of postings on it in discussions. But as far as joining us or any Free-moN group, use the people that will help you to design and build a module, and everybody's kind of got their own standard, but there's a national standard electrically, and the basic standard is the end plates have to be a certain height. They can be any width from 12 inches to 24 inches. And you can do whatever you want between the end plates. You can have the module be wide, be skinny, be deep, whatever you can dream. They don't have to be straight. The neat thing about the Portland and Western is when you look at it on the map, it's a straight line all the way down the Willamette Valley. So for me, in my situation, straight is good, and the terrain is fairly flat, so it's not like I'm in the Rocky Mountains.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your presentation. It was great, and I think with that, we'll time to wrap things up here. Is that right, Speed?
That's correct. I just have one special announcement for tomorrow morning. Instead of playing previously played Kevin Mark's video, we contracted with him to go live with Kevin tomorrow morning at 8 Eastern.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for having me. And like I said, if anybody has further questions, they can contact us through the Facebook group. Be happy to help anybody learn more about Free-moN and or the Portland and Western Railroad.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.